it's not that easy for a person to feel safe in a committed relationship, even if it's not marriage, when they haven't made the decision to take care of their own concerns.
Welcome to another episode of Love Speaks. We're still here with my good friend, our good friend, Dr. Days, who is an educated, certified family, marriage, and therapist, therapy counselor. She is one of my go-to for almost anything that helps us. Understanding that we're in the month of mental health. I'm Francois with my host,
Lakeisha. He's jumping right in.
because we're excited.
It's so good.
It's so good.
If you didn't watch part one, you have to go back and watch part one because it's so good.
You got to. And I'm ready to get to the juicy part because Dr. Days has done a phenomenal job talking about the family dynamics and how to deal with family, because the reality is we all can be triggered. And once our emotions get a bit out of balance, we need help. We need therapy, and it's okay. It really is okay to seek help, seek counsel, even if it's from somebody that you don't know, so that you can feel like there is nothing bias taking place. It's okay to seek therapists. So do me a favor, like, share, click the notification button, and subscribe. So every time that we're on, you can go ahead and receive good information, because we're going to talk about everything on this platform. So again, Dr. Days, welcome back to Love Speaks. We our conversation started so good that we just have to continue it. I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so glad to be here.
I am too. So glad you're here.
You always just send my brain just spinning on the good wealth of information that you bring. On our last episode, we talked about the different family dynamics, and the reality is that a lot of us have church people, Christians, who need to seek some counsel because their behavior, their thought patterns is somewhat messing up the family dynamic. In this new era of the church, some churches are implementing mental health programs. What are your thoughts about that?
I think that mental health is definitely needed in the church.
Yes.
Where people are, mental health is needed.
Yes.
I do believe that many people may use the Bible or Jesus as a way to protect their allegiance to that dead thing that they're still holding on to, and they don't realize it as such. Yeah. So for whatever reason, you don't want to address it, you don't want to possibly resolve it. They may not see it as that, but I'm just going to leave that over here, and then it's just going to be me and Jesus.
Exactly.
And then as you continue to progress in life, there's no change.
Yeah.
There's no transformation.
Yeah.
No new belief system. Nothing is happening, but it's you and Jesus.
Yeah.
So I do think that, without a shadow of a doubt, very certain that mental health is needed in the church. And it's okay. You can be comfortable about it. You can confide in someone who can really help you with your particular concerns or bring some enlightenment or awareness to concerns that you may not even realize is a concern. Because the longer that you do not deal with or confront an issue, people don't realize the bigger the issue is growing.
Yes.
I
No, I don't mean to cut cut you off. I want you to finish your thoughts because I don't want to take anything away from that. So you can continue on. I don't want to, but I just wanted to interject into there because in the church we have to be very careful because a lot of people will try to cast out what needs to be counseled. So they are calling it demons, and it's not a demon. What it is hurt, it is abuse, it is trauma that is buried deep and have been covered up. And it has been put makeup on and put hair on it and dressed it up, put on the best attire, put perfume on it, and gone out into the world. And it looks all together, looks perfect. But on the inside, there is something deep down buried. And a lot of people don't wear it. They don't wear it on the shoulders. I've been abused, I've been, I've experienced trauma. Many people don't wear that on their shoulder. They don't wear it on their shirt. They don't wear it on their clothes, so you don't see it. But you can identify it in their behaviors. And so we have to become trained and have a trained eye to see and to know that this is not a demon. This is trauma. Right. This is trauma acting out. This is trauma needs counseling. And so that's why I believe it is so important for us to have the mental health component. Every ministry should have a mental health component. Yes. If you don't have licensed therapists in the ministry, then to bring them in, I believe it needs to be an annual event hosted at every single church on God's green earth that will cater to the needs of those with mental issues. Yes.
And I also believe, I'm just going to interject this, I also believe from the time that I met the both of you, I believe, and I know your schedules is extremely busy with life and family, the church, and just many other things that you're called out to into the community. But I believe that you two are equipped to even develop a program to help leaders in the church, or to help if church have counselors or what have you, to know how to do it within the church based upon scripture. And I think you two are capable of that. Yes, I understand, the education of the school and that type of thing. But for those that are so church and religious minded, they're not even going to look or take to the educated ones. That's just a no-no. So hopefully, if time permits, dear God,
yes,
with these two, that you can help them to spearhead that for the church, to reach those who have gotten to the place that they are just so stubborn about it, that they just so, they're just not hearing or adhering to any other form of change unless it's coming out of the scripture, Jesus, or the Bible.
God has to be up to something because he just changed our track, our course. I myself, and I know we mentioned in the earlier session that you have a criminal justice background. That's why I obtained my bachelor's in criminal justice. So I have a criminal justice background as well. I did 6 years at the state attorney's office. I was a homicide trial coordinator, left homicide trial coordinator, became a domestic violence advocate, became a domestic violence paralegal. So I've had my years and my tenure in criminality and, in the law, and God shifted and he changed that course. And I could have went back into that field, but it wasn't God's will. And so God positioned me, and now I'm pursuing, clinical mental health in my master's, and he's also going to be doing the same in the winter. So he's going to be entering into the program. And so as I'll be graduating, coming out, he'll be going in the program. So it has to be something unique
so
God is doing. I'll help you out. So it's something great because has to be the hand of God. It has to be the hand of God. Because after I finish, I struggled so long to get back into the track because I'm like, God, is this what you really want to do? Is this what you're going to read? Because, master program is not free. We have to pay for this. It's all paid for. No grant, no, you pay for this, And so there's no assistance there. So I had to be sure, God, is this where you want me to put my dollars? And so as we turn the years, God says, okay, this is what, and he blessed me and he strengthened me to do that. And now us doing it jointly. And we said it. We're going to open up our practice. It's going to be Carvil and Carvil. Yeah. So we'll have it. We're going to open up our practice. So, and we're doing it. We're both doing it with the church in mind. We are. We're doing it with the church in mind, and we're doing it because we want to bring education and awareness to the church and also to the community. So,
and
accept that assignment.
exactly. And then for me, that's one of the reasons why I went. That's what my goal is, to get my master's as well in mental health, because when I was seeking counsel, I wanted somebody like me. I wanted somebody who had a Christian background, who would understand my ethnicity, but yet understand the practicality of where we are. And the reality is, the bumpy road that we experienced in marriage drove me to counseling. The bumpy road we experienced in marriage drove me to counseling. So as we begin to just drive this home concerning marriage, because now we live in a day and hour, because I feel people aren't getting the right help they need in marriage, that less people are interested in even getting married. They're not even interested. We live in a new generation where they're not even interested in getting married. Why get married? What for? I see what you guys are going through. I see what other people are going through. I've seen other marriages. And because people aren't taking it all in. As a family and marriage therapist, what would you say are some of the key things that keep a marriage strong?
One thing I can say is that, I guess as the generations change, as the world continue to evolve, a lot of things about marriage has changed.
Yes.
And that's why people feel that way. What was once the bond of sentiments, the provider, the roles, now we've gotten to a place where there's different alternatives. Households are being run very differently. For some, shacking works. Why go through the ups and downs? And I think nowadays, too, people are not necessarily doing the work that's needed within themselves to even be connected to another person. So with that said, marriage, it's a difficult decision for people to make, and it's not to say because they're not making it, it's not right. God instituted, so I believe in it.
Exactly.
But I would say the generation has just gotten lazy. It's just a lazy, pretty much, generation now. So I think with marriage, it takes a lot of work, soul searching, and people don't want to put the work forth to get that done. Exactly. It's they don't want to put the work forth to get it done, because a lot of times you go in already projecting the outcome, which you're going to draw that fear to you, because that's the very thing that you're living each and every day. Well, it's not going to work. My mama's didn't work. My dad's didn't work. It's not going to work. Men are no good, or they cheat, or women cheat, or just whatever. All
Exactly.
these different, stigmas that is out there. And I think it's a sad place, because I actually believe in marriage, even though I'm not married. But my thing is that I was just so self-absorbed coming up and just into what it is that I wanted to do in my career, and I need to travel, and then I had my parents, they were encouraging me, live your life, and and then once they got older and I'm past childbearing age, then they say, now do you think about marriage, or do you want some kids?
So in other words, our parents can't dictate where our marriage goes.
Absolutely.
So because sometimes it's better together. Sometimes it's better together. And I 100% agree with you that it's so important to do the work yourself. Do work on you, and I can again I can agree connecting our sessions where people don't know who they are.
Right. That's it.
They don't know who they are,
That's it.
or some just get so engulfed in the moment, not understanding that we live in a world that's constantly moving.
Right.
Constantly moving. I interviewed somebody, and they said something. I feel like they regurgitated what I said. And what I would normally tell my children, I always told my children, I said, enjoy being a child. Because once you're an adult, you will never be a child again. It ain't like you could do 20 years and say, start over. Once you're an adult, you'll never be a child again. And so what happens is sometimes, like you said, it's that internal child that's not healed, all those things there, and they bring that into the dynamics of the marriage and not have worked on themselves and don't have the awareness enough to say, I need to work on me. I need to work on me. I tell them like this, and I don't want to go. And you can tell me, family marriage therapists. They said, you crazy. They used to say, you're crazy if you talk to yourself. Then they changed it from, you ain't crazy if you talk to yourself. You're crazy if you answer yourself. And I say, well, what kind of person are you? You can't talk to you. You talk to yourself, and you can't talk back to you. So within me, I would talk to myself from time to time and say, you know that wasn't right, but I still did it. you know that wasn't right, but it sure made me feel good. But I've had the awareness enough to know, hey, I understand where this comes from, and going back to just figuring out in the dynamics, even of marriage in particular, why did I respond that way? Why did I act that way? Am I disappointed? Because I've had a level of expectation from you that you did not deliver back to me. And then sometimes it's hard to do that without proper counseling. Right. Because sometimes we don't know how to ask those questions. What questions do you think each married individual ought to be able to ask their spouses?
Married individuals, that should be definitely the depths of authenticity. I mean, that should be a place that's so raw and so real. Within the covenant relationship of marriage, you should be able to ask anything. I feel emotional distance. Is there something that I said or something that I did? Yes. You should easily be able to say that. Or I'm not feeling as attracted to you, or I'm feeling like something is not right. Is anything I'm missing? Is something going on? And please be honest, because if you don't, this can put a breach in the relationship.
Yes, that's good.
And once you allow that breach, the further and farther and farther and farther, that it will go, and you find yourself in a whole totally place. So whatever it is that you're feeling, you need to be able to ask it. Right. Ask what it is that you're feeling without trying to ask yourself inwardly and judging it, prejudging it and all. Ask the person and free yourself. Don't be in bondage to internal thoughts that have no logical consistency to it. It's inconsistent.
I think today, in today's time, as you mentioned earlier, the dynamics of marriage has shifted. Yes. It has shifted tremendously. And I remember reading an article where we were once a generation of people who they said it was FOMO, fear of missing out. Right. So we kind of jumped on the bandwagon with a lot of things. Most people got married because they feared, missing out of being a parent or having a spouse. So other people were getting married and having weddings. And so they feared, they had that FOMO, the fear of missing out. But now there is, in this generation, and that's why we don't see marriages as much. I was reading the article, is because they live in this thing of FOMO, fear of better options. And so they don't commit because they fear that there's a better option that will come along. And so when there was a generation that had the mindset that I'm going to miss out on something, or I'm going to miss out, and this day's going to pass and I'm not going to be able to get this again, this generation says, no, I'm not going to commit because there's going to be a better option that may come along. And so this is where I think there's this struggle that we see. And even for those who say I do, that thought pattern is still there, that I'm married to you, but still there's a better option. They holding on to the better option, so they don't commit. They don't commit. And so that puts that breach and that barrier, I think, in a lot of marriages. Because even as you mentioned earlier, I remember telling my mom, like before I got married and she was alive, my mom, and we were talking, I'd gotten saved, and just say, God's going to send me a great husband. And she said, ain't no good men out there, but she was saying that from her own past experiences. And so we can never, ever give advice from our past experience, because that does not mean that will be somebody else's experiences. Right. And so we have to be able to define that and encourage, especially today, where I think marriage is almost about to be almost obsolete. They're not doing it no more. Young people talk, you want to get married. Young people I speak today don't want to get married and don't want to have no children. So I said, God, what happened to the commandment to take dominion and to multiply? They don't want to multiply no more. They don't want to have children. They don't want to get married. And so there is an order that has been broken. Right. And I believe that God wants to, restore it. Yeah. He wants to restore it.
I want to add to that is that also, in addition to what you're saying, that's powerful. Absolutely what you said. That is totally powerful. But it's hard to commit when you don't really know who you are. And see, the black family, many families, but is broken down so much. Yeah. It's broken, and whatever they have witnessed or observed within their household, they definitely don't want to possibly repeat that. Yes. Even if the union stayed together 50 or 60 years, because sometimes we hear that number and we'll say, ooh, 50 years, ooh, yeah. But listen to the story of the 50 years.
Right. That's right.
Okay?
That's right.
Listen to the story. There could have been multiple, children, affairs, polygamy.
I like the way I heard Dr. Darius Daniels say it. Listen to one of his podcasts or one of his quick sermons that kind of came up. And he said this. He said that it's not that people that... It's a commitment on either side. So you have people who committed and they stayed married 40, 50 years. You had some that was committed in love, and you had some just committed to the dysfunction. Right. Exactly. They committed to the abuse, they committed to the dysfunction, and they went along with it. So it was a commitment there, but what kind of commitment was it? Right. And they stuck in that place because this is all I know, this is who I have, this is what I have, and they've lived in that for so many years. And just to give the testament, because it's been pulled up, thank you for that, the information in regards to the Census Bureau reports for May 2024, that married couple households made up 47% of all U.S. households in 2022, down from 71% in 1970. That's a big gap. That's huge. 71 to 47.
And I want to say that maybe a part of that foundation is safety. Safety. Because we talked about being able to ask questions and having nothing off limits. And the question in the back of my mind is, how do we create a safe atmosphere so that you feel like you're safe to ask those questions? You say the fear of missing out is a lack of safety. The fear of better option, that I'll be safe if I just wait for the better option, And I think it kind of speaks to insecurity. Right. I think we live in a very faithless generation now, where we don't have faith in God, faith in humanity, and most definitely don't have faith in marriage, because we lack that blanket of safety. That blanket of safety. Go ahead.
And I think it's very difficult to feel safe or be safe when you haven't dealt with your own traumas or issues, or maybe you saw the patterns from your parents who had trauma and they didn't deal with it, and you just coming up in a household that have experienced maybe a lot of physical abuse, emotional, or what have you, whatever you've experienced, whether it was sexual molestation, whatever, it's not that easy for a person to feel safe in a committed relationship, even if it's not marriage, when they haven't made the decision to take care of their own concerns. I think when you are to a place that you are working on yourself, you are trying to better yourself, become healthy emotionally, seeing your counselor, your therapist, whatever the situation is, I think that would be the place where you would feel a little bit more humble or more drawn to an authentic relationship, because you are coming to that place of authenticity.
Yes.
But it's going to be very difficult for you to come to that place when you're not dealing with the stuff that you have experienced, whether it was you per se, the victim, or you just was a victim in the environment
Yes.
of what had taken place.
Yes.
So it's going to be very difficult. And, you know, I know people, I have family members, they shack 2, 3, 4 years, and they just, well, when is the marriage? Oh, it's coming. We probably, I say, what, maybe 10 years? You know what I mean? I mean, what, this thing with the buy the milk and the cow, or however that go, that still stands. What? But it's a different generation, but you were placed here in this generation.
Exactly.
So it's up to you to do what you need to do, to work within yourself, to take care of what, because you can have whatsoever it is that you want to have according to Scripture. I mean, you went to school, you got educated, it wasn't a problem with that. You got all these different choices. You can go do that, but then you don't want to take care of the temple.
Exactly.
To have a full-fledged, committed relationship with someone who would truly love you. Dig inside, get the help, and find out where is that coming from.
Yeah.
Yes.
That you rather take a hold to the myths or the stigmas that's out there, or the lies that's out there, and you feel safety in that.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you can't feel safety in being loved truly by someone.
It's difficult because there's an emotional immaturity. You can never advance in immaturity. You have to become full and complete. That's what maturity is. It is coming to the fullness and completeness. Immaturity is just the opposite. So the enemy will keep us in that place so our relationship can continuously be diluted. They could continually be perversed because we can't communicate. As you started in the last session talking about communication being the number one factor. But if communication cannot be successful, then we're never going to be able to advance. We're never going to be able to grow. I remember a time where we were in counseling, as a couple, because it's needed. I believe every marital counselor, even if it's working, still get counseling, because somebody may not be a truth teller. Somebody may not be a truth teller, and they may be that one that's just going through in silence. They're going through, and you still together. It's been 10 years, 20 years. But I believe it's always a point in life that you should come together and say, let us just speak to someone to see if there's any issues. Because I remember, I don't know if it was, my husband who said it, I think it was him who told me that in marriage, when we do our, premarital counseling sessions with couples, that, we always hear the term that it has to be 50-50. And I remember him saying, no, it has to be 100-100, because there's going to be a time where I don't bring. And so what happens when that 50 don't show up? You only have 50%, but if you 100 and I'm 100, when you don't show up, we can still be sustained, And so I think that is so important, and we have to get back to that place where we can now make marriage the focal point. Because I think it was Bishop Jake some time ago, and I'm going to give it back over, did a series called Model Homes. It was so phenomenal. I remember you sending it to me, and I watched those with both him and Sarita Jakes, First Lady Sarita Jakes. And it was so phenomenal. And they brought in the children because, of course, it's the family. It's the unit, the whole entire. They brought in the whole family and they built it from them first, and then they brought in the children. And it was so phenomenal because he talks about the model homes, giving the illustration as whatever was modeled before us. that's what we're going to find ourselves walking in, because it is ingrained in us. We've seen it. We've seen these behaviors. We've seen it. And so we normalize them. You know, hey, that's what I saw for 20 years growing up. So it's normalized to me. And now ain't nobody going to take away, ain't nobody going to teach me nothing different, because this is what I've been taught. This is what I've seen. And so this is where the therapy comes in, because now we're able to pull back, as you said, those layers, saying that was maybe taught, but that was wrong.
Exactly.
That's preventing you from having a successful marriage, and you got to do away with that. So it's some great stuff.
Well, see, one thing in marriages we have to understand too is there's a cohesiveness and a balance when it comes to individuality and togetherness. So that needs to be balanced, and it's very difficult for that to be balanced when you don't know who you are as an individual, or it's very difficult. You're still emotionally entangled to whatever the situation, purpose, person, place, or thing. So in marriages, when relationships get off kiltered, then we either need to check ourselves to see what is off or what is not going on, because that has filtered over into our ability to be able to be cohesive and stable together. So that's what I tell some of the married couple: the individuality and the togetherness have gotten off balance. The equilibrium is thrown off, and we have to get that particular balance back on track. And the togetherness that comes from, well, individuality, of course, is just, for some people, it's difficult because it's actually just a lack of self-development. Like you're saying, you're not mature in particular areas, and you're not developing. And that's why a lot of times some people, instead of being able to hold conversations with you, only thing they know how to do is just to react emotionally with everything, you know, because the intensity of the anxiety has gotten so chronic or so high that they can't, because I lack the self-development to be able to stand sound in who I am, and to not be emotionally entangled into what has been presented, and to go ahead and address the issue and still be able to be connected to you at the same time. See, it sounds easy, but it's not easy for a person who lacks self-development. And that's a lot of things that I see in counseling as well. The lack of what we consider it to be self-differentiation. They lack that totally. It's very, very small. What I say, what I think, what I feel, and how I behave is always entangled into the emotions of another. I'm not capable of making the sound decision outside of myself because I haven't did the work. So they just basically lack autonomy.
Yeah. This is real good. Our time is just really flying. It's so good that we're having this time together. And for me, just to me, still connecting with that safety, security, and sampling. Safety, security, and sampling. I have to be honest for myself. I was one who had gotten to a place where I was like, I'm not interested in getting married. I'm not interested in getting married. And being a young pastor.
And then I showed up.
But before you, I got to tell you what happened before you. Being a young pastor, that used to be the prophecy from everybody that came to preach. Oh, you singer, God gonna send you a wife. God gonna send you a wife. And I'll say in the back of my head, I'm not interested. Why? Because when I viewed marriage at that time, it was like, I don't want that. I seen domineering women. Get over here. That's my husband. Come on. Put that. And I was like, and I was like, I can't see that happening to me. That was a turn off for the whole idea of marriage, you know? And so, and what happens is I met my bishop. I met my bishop and his wife. And I saw them. I seen my grandparents, you know. I heard of my great-grandparents. But my great-grandfather had already demised by the time I was born, so I never seen them together. But I've heard of them, but I've seen, you know, my grandparents. My grandmother was divorced because she married somebody who was a great entrepreneur, and a preacher in the church, but he wanted to fight. He liked young girls and he wanted to fight. So I seen that. I seen her second marriage that failed. So I seen that. I seen the failed marriage with my mom and my dad. So I've seen all that, and I was like, I want nothing to do with that. And when I saw my bishop and his wife, I said, oh, it is possible. I saw an old bishop who was married forever, and his wife never went to church with him. Never saw that woman in church, not one day of my life. I'm sorry, I did. I seen her one day at his funeral. I saw her in church at his funeral. The only day I ever saw her. And I looked at that and I said, if that's what marriage is, if that's what it means to stick together and ride it out, I'll pass. I'll pass. I can go out there and get what I need to do and say, God, please forgive me. Thank you, Jesus. Exactly. And keep it moving. And so that's what did it for me. I didn't feel that marriage was a safe place. And I think that destroys a lot of communication, and that's why we end up being torn and everything else like that. However, what do you do when both spouses have a view of marriage that they were exposed to? I talked about what I saw in marriage, exposed to, that is satisfactory for them, but it conflicts with the other.
That's a great question. You're definitely going to have to put the issues out on the table, especially prior to marriage.
Yes.
But if you've already gotten in the marriage, that's something else. But prior to the marriage, you're definitely going to have to put the issues out on the table along with your personality, your view, because even observing another's relationship and seeing the good in it still doesn't necessarily mean that when you get in the relationship with whoever you're with, that it may turn out that way, because every household would possibly have their own set of different issues. So we have to put that stuff out on the table, understand the belief system that's behind why you feel that way. And find out from the party, what type of marriage, what are you looking for? What would work for you? What would not work for you? Understanding the background of where the person come from, because a lot of times, as my father used to always say to me, when you meet someone, you accept that and don't be thinking, they'll change, they'll change. So you have to understand that throughout the dating course prior to a marriage, it's a possibility that what you're dating and how they act or what have you, if they're not the type that want to invest in self, do self-development, personal development, it's a possibility that's what you're going to get. Yeah. So if you have all these different views and belief system and things that you want out of marriage and you see it ahead of time that's not, going to have to make some hard decisions. And some people won't because they feel like, oh, they'll change, and they may not. Now, once you get in the marriage and whatever you perceive and things are not working, now that you're in that covenant relationship, that's why I say communication, you have to be honest, but I understand it's difficult to communicate when you really don't know who you are, or when you have developed this pseudo-self that you just stuck in a particular situation and you just accept it and say, I'm here now, let me just deal with it, which is really not good. But you still have to bring issues to the table. Bring it to the table. This is working. This is not working. This is what I had expected. Has the roles changed? How could we evolve to get into a different place because I'm feeling this way? I'm not sure how you feel. You have to put it out on the table so a person can know and not allow the guessing game. Exactly. Even make time where you can sit down, not just during times of issues or times of crisis or concern, but make time in addition to a date night, but make time to an issue night.
That's right.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying?
That's good.
Let's have some issues. And even if there's not something, then just talk about, because a lot of times we're not always being honest and sharing everything. because sometimes you feel that if I share this, I may stir the pot, and we've been doing good this week. So let me just hold it. But that's festering.
That's right.
And when you allow that to fester, where does it sit?
Yeah.
What organ is it in? I tell a lot of people, they, I've been hurting. Okay, in addition to it may be something medical or physical, but what's going on with you emotionally? Because it could be that too, because everything that's digested needs a release. So I would say just in marriage, you got to put it out on the table, hold nothing, make an issue night, be very honest, talk about it, how we're going to work towards it, what would it look like for you to look different, and this how it would look like for me for it to look different. And how can we do this thing and work together? Even as they do with kids sometimes in psychology, this reinforcement reward, surprise them when something has been met, do something different that's out. I said, well, what's this for? That issue that we had. We got, make it fun if you possibly can, in addition to it just being an issue.
That's some good information. I like where you said festering, because what I heard there, a book that I picked up throughout my educational courses, is The Body Keeps the Score. The Body Keeps the Score. Phenomenal book, because what we hold in and the issues we don't deal with, your organs, something is keeping the score. Something is bearing that weight of that emotion, that issue. And so don't let it fester. Talk about it. Bring the issues to the table. Bring them out open. This was such a phenomenal, session. It's always a delight to sit with you, Dr. Days. Always a delight. We definitely going to have her back. We're going to have her back because it was such profound information that was shared today with marriages. If you want to step out, be bold, be courageous. Talk to your spouse. Look, we need to get a session set up. We need to contact a therapist. I told you earlier in this session, EAP. If you're employed, your employer offers free sessions of counseling, and it could be family, anyone in your household, not just you. So bring anyone in your household to get those free sessions of counseling, and you can bring your spouse, have those free sessions, talk about those issues. It does not have to end in divorce. It does not have to be sour. It does not have to be bitter. There's always hope, but it just requires a conversation.
Absolutely. So thank you so much. And so I believe, and I hope I'm not putting her on the front, Dr. Days is available for more sessions just like this if you want her in your space. So reach down to the link below so we can give you contact information on how to reach Dr. Days, because she is educated, profound, down to earth, and she's always a help. So we thank you so much for the help for the family dynamic, for the church, and even marriage. So please like, share, click, and subscribe, and then make sure love always speaks. Okay, make sure always love speaks.